Princess Giselle of Andalusia had longed for one true love, and she would eventually find it in New York City with a man named Robert and his daughter Morgan. And they lived happily ever after. But ever after is actually a fairly long time, and after 5 years and the addition of baby Sophia, they eventually moved to the suburbs and the city of Monroeville, New Jersey. Morgan, who's now a very, very moody teenager, is feeling the strain of the relocation, and it's put a strain on her relationship with her stepmother. Out of desperation, Giselle is forced to turn to an Andalusian wishing wand that she receives as a housewarming gift from Nancy and Edward. Giselle wishes for the perfect fairy tale life, and that's what she gets. A land of talking animals, musical numbers, and even an evil queen in the form of Melvina Monroe, the real estate queen of Monroeville. Or should I say, Monroevillusia. However, soon after the change takes place, things begin to go a little bit awry. A gown purchased for the festival for Morgan is suddenly cut to shreds. Morgan's room is suddenly turned into either a dungeon or some type of dingy basement. And everything is starting to feel a little darker with Giselle. And that's because she wished for a perfect fairy tale life, and if you know anything about how stepmothers are usually depicted in fairy tales, it's not the best. With the spell set to take permanent hold at midnight, Giselle must not only contend with the growing wickedness inside her, but also with Melvina's own machinations for power. This is Disenchanted. So, yes, obviously this is the sequel to Enchanted, the sort of deconstructionist fairy tale story Disney told quite some time ago. I can't remember, was it 2012? I want to say 2012. Anyway, yeah. Overall, this wasn't fun enough. It just, like, the musical numbers were okay. I liked the story for the most part, but it was a little too dreary and downtrodden, I think, for its own good. I mean, I even like the idea of the angle. You know, when she wishes for the perfect fairy tale life, she fails to take into account, again, that stepmothers are not traditionally depicted well, and thus she is becoming wicked and evil. So, or Giselle is. And, you know, Morgan is very typical teenager, like, she's trying to be I don't know if she's being something, a social media influencer, but she does spend a lot of time on her phone. But, you know, there's all these little things that happen that kind of open her back up a little bit, like, when they move into this place, it's a fixer-upper, they go into Morgan's room, and it's this really nice room that Giselle has spent a lot of time, and she likes it, and then she turns the light on, and the wiring is faulty, so it starts a fire that burns her clothes. So, yeah, I mean, her boxes of clothes, because they're still moving in. And, like, you know, again, that part kind of worked well. But then, like, you know, once the wish takes place and you're in the fairy tale land, it, you know, kind of, it doesn't really fall apart so much, but, you know, certain things go away. Like, Robert basically vanishes for huge chunks of the film. The idea is, he doesn't know if he can handle commuting all the way to New York City every day, because he rode the train a couple times and just realizes it's really boring, and you know, if you don't know how to properly pack your food, it gets squashed. So you're just kind of stuck in this, menial limbo. And he's wondering if he is actually capable of doing more. And earlier in the movie, when they meet up with Edward and Nancy, Edward gives Robert his sword. And so the idea is, you know, he's a squire aspiring to become a knight. So he's running around trying to slay dragons and giants, and that's basically it. But it's like, it happens so rarely in the film that you just kind of forget about him. And, you know, he's kind of an important part, you know, and maybe to an extent I understand that, because, again, if you're trying to draw on the idea of a relationship between a stepmother and stepdaughter in a fairy tale, you know, the father is rarely included in those stories. So, you know, maybe to an extent I understand it, but it is kind of like a, you know, when he shows up, it becomes this little cul-de-sac that really burns out the joke rather quickly. And, of course, there's a love interest for Morgan, too, in the form of Tyson Monroe, who is Melvina's son, who is always voted festival prince at this thing. And, like, the town holds this festival, and she, like, Melvina is this real estate queen, and she sells all these things. but she also, like, she bakes a lot of stuff. She, makes welcoming gifts. She's on all the committees. She's one of those types of mothers. Not quite Karen territory, but I think you get the idea. The one that has to have the societal standing. And like I said, because her last name is Monroe, if you haven't figured out, in Monroeville, she wields quite a bit of power, and so it's hinted very early on that, Tyson has won this thing like 5 years in a row, and it's not rigged. It's probably totally rigged, but yeah, like, he's not developed well enough to really warrant that, unfortunately. Like, he appears a couple of times, and it's like, you should have had him hitting it off with Morgan earlier, and then maybe having a joke about him always saying, like, yeah, that thing is totally rigged. That's where, and get the idea that, even he understands that his mother can be quite demanding. But no, there's just none of that. Instead, he's, and then he's just turned into a prince for, fairy tale reasons, and, we get that kind of story arc, but again, it doesn't really merit that. The song numbers are okay. There's one, as the wickedness takes control of Giselle, where she and Melvina have this duet about who's the better bad person, or better evil person, and that's a really good song. But again, like, other than that, they don't really contribute too much to the plot. They just, they're there for the story. And, so yeah, like, there's parts of this that work. Unfortunately, there's parts of it that don't really work too well. I'll try to avoid some of the major spoilers, but, there's something about the spell, too, that winds up having an effect in Andalusia, or Andalasia. And, that's also where part of that has to be, fixed so that they can, undo this spell as best they can. And, like I said, there are parts of it that work, and then there's other things, like the idea is, there's this barista, there's this coffee shop in town, and he's like the chief gossip, and he winds up becoming the magic mirror on the wall. And like, those parts sort of work a little bit, like how they take things and transform them in certain ways. But other than that, like, they don't contribute anything else. They just kind of sit there for, hey, look at this now, and that's about it. So yeah, the plot is, the idea is okay. Unfortunately, I just think the execution of the plot and also the pacing is a little short. The pacing itself isn't short. It's actually kind of too broadly paced. Like, I was a half an hour into it, and I thought it was an hour. So, but yeah, like, there's, like I said, the parts that worked. I thought the performances were fine. The story is a good idea. I just don't think the overall execution worked very well. I know I'm beating a dead horse here, so I'll try to sum this up. I am going to give Disenchanted a C. It's just kind of meh. I don't know if it's necessarily a worthy follow-up to the original. I barely remember the original that much outside of the few jokes that were in there too. But like I said, I thought this one, I thought Enchanted had funnier moments than this does. This one is just kind of blah. None of the jokes really work for me at all. So yeah, like I said, that's why I'm getting a C.
Rotten to the core. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the baddest of them all? Mal and Evie, they're nothing like the kids next door. Welcome to their wicked world. Audrey, Jane, and Lonnie learn forgive, forget. You ain't seen nothing yet. You are who you choose to be. A new generation with fabulous style. Disney Descendants signature dolls and coronation dolls. Each doll sold separately. Doll stands and play scenes not included.
Okay, so I keep goofing these up and leaving things out that I'm not supposed to, so I hope you don't mind if I go through this in order. The next video is probably going to be the Week 12 preview with Madden things. Then we're going to wrap up Star Wars Andor. The next movie after that is Strange World, another Disney film. It's the animated one that's coming out this week. That will be up on Friday. Survivor Series will be up on Sunday in all likelihood. And then after that, it will be, I guess, 2 episodes of the Santa Clauses again, because I haven't been able to get to the. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get to the episode that airs this week, so I'll do 2 episodes for that, and so we can round things out when that show ends, I guess. And then after that will be the random trade review on Ambush Bug Year None. See you all next time. Hey guys, remember you can request a movie or a television series for me to review at my Patreon at patreon.com/CPTime for Cat Productions. Also, remember to like the video, comment, share, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so that you can be alerted to further videos.